It's election day in the United States. It's also trade deadline day in the NFL, as well as this is the midpoint of the NFL season. So it's a big episode. We got half an hour until the polls close in the United States. So we're going to try to fly through this. Lots of news. Lots, of course, we got our top 10 list. One exit from the list last week. So much to cover coming up right here on the NFL show. Welcome to the NFL show on, of course, what is the most nervous day in America every 4 years. Obviously, I'm living here in Australia. I've got the convenience, I guess, of not having as much at stake for me personally because I live in a different country. But of course, the issues matter to me back at home. But whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, guys, hit the like button, subscribe to Hotsport. We're not here to talk about politics. I just thought it would be apropos because obviously it is a big day in the United States. It was also trade deadline day. So lots to go on about. So we're going to try to fly through the show as quickly as possible. I'm not going to get into detail. In fact, I'm going to throw out sort of the main result portion of this show, just a heads up, like the list results on this show, just because we just don't have lots of time. I want to kind of get to seeing the results come in for the presidential election. I have my mother coming as well, so a bit of a personal insight in my life. But anyway, welcome along to the NFL show. Of course, back on the election. Just 1 second. I'm not quite sure when this video is going to get edited and get out to you, so by that time, you might know the winner of the presidential election. But at the moment, I come to you half an hour before the polls close, the first polls close in the election, so I have no idea what's going on. So this is not the place to go, but this is not the place for politics. This is hot sport, not hot politics. So let's go on. Might as well just kick on with the show. The more I talk about it, the less time we have to cover what's important to us, which is the National Football League. Well, let's begin. We might as well begin with the breaking news that involved let's do the other breaking news, the quicker breaking news, which is we have another firing in the NFL, and that is Dennis Allen. Of course, the New Orleans Saints, after starting out 2-0, have now lost, I believe, 7 in a row. It's looking very bad, and Dennis Allen is now out as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Another firing as well, not as huge. It's the Raiders on the offensive side of the ball have fired offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, and I believe he used to be the OC for the Packers, also the OC for the Bears, I think last year. He is now out, as well as quarterback coach Rich Scangarello. So obviously the Raiders, they are not happy as well with how their season has begun. I believe they are also similar record, 2-7 or 2-6. They had got 2 wins on the season. So that's the breaking news in terms of the coaching stuff. Now, trade deadline day, and because we don't have as much time to cover, I'm not going to get into all the discussions on what it means, maybe on a few, but a lot of big trades. And the headline trade today, we'll begin with that. Cornerback Marshawn Lattimore traded from the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, we just talked about the New Orleans Saints and Dennis Allen, to the Washington Commanders. That is a massive trade for the Commanders. That is the Commanders going all in on probably the best cornerback in football, one of the best cornerbacks in football. I don't really have much on the compensation just because we don't have time to get into it, but that is a huge, huge addition for the Washington Commanders. They are really going all in. They really believe in their chances this season. And the scary Washington Commanders get even scarier. Another big trade in the NFL. Za'Darius Smith, obviously former of the Packers and of the Vikings, has now gone back to the NFC North a third time. He's been traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Detroit Lions. Obviously, the Lions losing Aiden Hutchinson. So Za'Darius Smith will probably fill in for them. And, it's them being very self-aware that they're still in that Super Bowl window, that even though they've lost their defensive anchor in Aiden Hutchinson, that they can still find a suitable replacement, at least for the rest of this season, so they can maybe make that push for a Super Bowl. They are still the favorites for me in the NFC. They have been incredible this year. Sticking with the NFC North, but also to the AFC North, Khalil Herbert, the running back for the Chicago Bears, has been traded to the Cincinnati Bengals. Of course, the Bengals needing help in that running back room. Of course, they had Zach Moss. You got Chase Brown in there. So now Khalil Herbert is going to be a much needed addition for the Chicago Bears. Let's see some of the big ones. Another big one. Longtime Buffalo Bill cornerback. He's been at the Rams this season. Tre'Davious White is headed back to the NFC. The Rams have traded him to the Baltimore Ravens. So again, the Ravens getting serious, and they've got they've needed to address the defense. It's been struggling over the last few weeks, and Tre'Davious White is a massive addition for them, and it will bring some veteran leadership as well to that secondary as well. Another big name, Preston Smith, just of the Green Bay Packers. We talked about his former teammate. Obviously, we call them the Smith Bros. Za'Darius Smith been traded today. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense, the number one defense in the NFL, according to my opinion, has now got even stronger. They've added Preston Smith to that defense. The Steelers continue to strengthen. We were talked about a couple weeks ago about Mike Williams being on the trading block. Well, now the Jets have traded Mike Williams to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hopefully the change of scenery can get him back to his form that he had in Los Angeles with the Chargers, playing with Russell Wilson. Finally, on not as notable trades, Jonathan Mingo has been traded from the Carolina Panthers to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Mingo is a player who had a lot of promise coming out of the draft. He looking to change scenery probably to the Cowboys. They need help at receiver opposite CeeDee Lamb, and maybe he's going to try to see if he can kickstart his career there, really, in Dallas. And finally, Khalil Davis, going back to the San Francisco 49ers. He was there previously. The Houston Texans have traded Khalil Davis to the 49ers, and that has been the trade deadline recap. All right. Out of breath, because we're trying to get through this. We have 23 minutes now until the polls open, and that is going to be when we will end this video, because I have got people coming over, as we've said. All right. On the IR, on the injury list, and it's not as a depressing injury list. There are a few people got off the hook on this list, but we'll start off with Dak Prescott, the headline of this. Injured his hamstring. He left the game against the Falcons. He more than likely is going to head to your IR, so he's probably going to miss the next 4 games minimum. That will include, obviously, the big game against the Philadelphia Eagles at home this weekend. So Cooper Rush will go against the Eagles on Sunday. Chris Olave left the game for the Saints against the Panthers with a concussion. So again, more Saints news. They are all over the news. Obviously, I think that means he's going to miss the game, but he's in concussion protocol at the moment for the Saints. 2 Falcons. We mentioned the game earlier with the Falcons and the Cowboys. Dak Prescott left. Drake London and Grady Jarrett both left. Drake London with a hip, Grady Jarrett with an Achilles. At this moment, their status for the weekend or moving forward is unknown, but I imagine that those injuries are not that serious, considering that they're unknown at this point. Now, 2 players that got off. A.J. Brown, I was so relieved to hear that his knee injury is just a bruise. He's day-to-day. He is very highly likely to be able to suit up against the Dallas Cowboys. we will see how Nick Sirianni plays that, because they also play Thursday night against the Washington Commanders in a possibly winner take all game in the NFC East. So with a 4-day turnaround, is he going to want to play AJ Brown with a bruised knee on back-to-back games? So that is going to be an interesting thing to watch. And finally, last night we saw Patrick Mahomes limp off the field with an ankle injury, and miraculously 2.5 minutes later come back into the lineup for the Chiefs. So he seems to have avoided any sort of injury scare, and that has been the injury news. Now let's get on to Anton's picks quickly. We won't discuss really then we'll get onto the list. Anton's picks, man, I've been on fire. 12-3 this week. I'm pretty sure this has tied my all-time high. 12-3. I am stoked with that. The 3 that went wrong for me, I'll have to remind myself of that. The Saints one, I picked the Saints. Let me see. Oh, the Titans. The Titans beat the Patriots. And the other one that went wrong for me, I believe, was in the late window. Oh, yeah. Oh, I picked the Bears to beat the Cardinals, and the Cardinals, man, really putting me on notice. They are now on 3 straight wins. The Cardinals are no joke. I believe the Cardinals also made a trade as well, which I didn't cover earlier. I think they traded for the Broncos defensive end. Yeah, Baron Browning traded from the Broncos to the Cardinals. That was yesterday, so I didn't cover that on my trade show today, but that happened. So, okay, that's a bit of a late inclusion into the breaking news pot. Although it's not as breaking news as it happened yesterday. All right. Let's get into the list, guys. Let's get into the list. Let's get my off-the-list music going. Thank you very much. And there's only one team that was off the list, and I will give you my explanations as to why. Now, I gotta say, it was tight between this team and the team at number 10. I went back and forth in my head. They almost was a dead heat at numbers 10 and 11 on the list. Now, the reason why I went with the other team to stay on the list is because they had beaten this team, and I also think they're in a better position overall. And the loss that they just took was, for me, not more like, as the opponent was more difficult, so I'm not going to be as hard on them. So the team that came off the list, as you guys, without further ado, was the Houston Texans, and of course that's a massive drop because they were in my top 5 last week. But look, the injury to Stephon Diggs, we talked about it, the offensive line issues, and then they went on Thursday Night Football and they lost to a Jets team that was struggling. Wasn't very impressed with the Texans' performance, and I feel like they're on a bit of a downhill trajectory. Let's say they can stay afloat, but at the moment, they are off the list. And again, the team that stayed on the list, you will see later, but they did lose to them earlier in the season, so I feel like when it comes to that closely, I do have evidence of one team beating the other. So therefore, the Houston Texans have fallen on the list, but off the list, sorry. But shall we get into our top 10 list? Look, we're only 13 minutes. We have flown by. We're going to clear this half an hour goal easily on this show. So guys, we're going to take a bit of a time to breathe. All right. The top 10 list, of course, it's starting to get a lot more consistent. We had one out. The question is, who came in on the list? But can we get the NFL music? Cue the NFL music. This is my top 10 list. At number 10, moving 5 spots down. Wait, was it 5 spots down or 4 spots down from where I had them last week? Anyway, the Green Bay Packers. So we said there was a toss-up between the Packers and the Texans for who would have been off the list. The Packers survived because they lost to the Lions, which the Lions have been the best team outside of Kansas City in the NFL this season. They have been destroying everybody. They lost to them by a 10-point margin at home. But I think that a loss to the Lions is is more excusable than a loss to the Jets. Obviously, the Packers have beaten the Texans head-to-head this year only a couple weeks ago. So the Packers are number 10 on the list. At number 9, welcoming them back onto the list, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, they beat up on the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I wouldn't say beat up, because the Cowboys, again, made a late charge, as they do. But Kirk Cousins, what a great performance by Kirk Cousins here. He also had Drake London out on the game 2 times that they took the gamble on 4th down, and both times did it end up with them in the end zone. Big TD from Kirk Cousins to Darnell Mooney. And the Atlanta Falcons are back in the top 10 at number 9 on my list. At number 8, moving up 2 spots last week to number 10, the Baltimore Ravens. They had a big bounce back win this weekend. And Lamar Jackson was sensational. Zay Flowers was sensational. I believe he only had like a handful of catches, but over 127 yards. Huge win for the Ravens this week. And yeah, they are back at number 8 on the list. At number 7, also moving up 2 spots from last week after they won on Sunday Night Football, the Minnesota Vikings. Yeah, look, they played an Indianapolis Colts team who had going through some bit of drama. Anthony Richardson obviously being benched. But Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson, huge performance on the Sunday night stage. They are at number 7 on the list. And at number 6, falling 2 spots down from last week because they were on a bye, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, they, of course, made some big additions on either side of the football. I love the trend of where the Pittsburgh Steelers is going. So they've just missed out on the top 5 by 1 spot this week. But, of course, that's because of the bye. But look, I think the big part of the list starts really at 6 here for me. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I said, I just cannot stop gushing about that defense. It's incredible. And now Preston Smith has been added into the fold. So that is going to give them some incredible depth at that outside linebacker, defensive end position for the Steelers. Man, my mouth is so dry. I've been just talking so damn fast and getting through this. But yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers are at number 6 on the list. And let's get into the top 5 power rankings. Anton Hotsport power rankings. Let us go. At number 5, the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley reverse hurdling his way into the top 5 of the list. Look, questions on Nick Sirianni's decision making. His 2-point conversion attempts through the roof this week. Insane. The 4th down tries as well. Some of the play calls onto the 4th down. Sending your kicker in to try to attempt a 57-yard field goal. Look, that didn't come to bite him at the end, but the Eagles, offensively and defensively, I thought were dominant. Saquon Barkley, look, I've said I think he should be the MVP of the league. I think he has been carrying the Eagles. 2 TDs, 1 through the air, 1 on the ground. Jalen Hurts, again, 2 touchdowns through the air. I think one to Saquon, 1 to Devontae Smith. He ran 1 in himself. Jalen has been on a roll recently. I think he's really starting to heat up. And Nakobe Dean making that play. I believe Nakobe Dean interception by Zach Bond. They had the fumble recovered by Keely Ringo. I believe there was also I think they caused either 3 or 4 turnovers in the ballgame. The Eagles defense was lights out. Look, the Jaguars had 0 points in the 3rd quarter. There's that crazy, almost self-inflicted run by the Eagles, where the Jaguars got themselves scarily close into the game. The Jaguars had a chance to win the game, but the Eagles overall are top 5 on this list because both sides of the football, forget about Nick Sirianni for a second, are really clicking into gear, and they should really be on watch. My Eagles, I'm so happy. I kind of said this a few weeks ago that this would start being an uptick for the Eagles, and they are now in the top 5 for the first time since week 1. And yeah, I could not be happier. But at number 4, the division rival, the Washington Commanders, the scary Washington Commanders. Now, They escaped with a victory in New York, but the Commanders also escaped the week before. But overall, Jayden Daniels 7-2. This is their best start of the season for the Washington Commanders, I believe, almost ever to the first half of the season. Jayden Daniels, not only is he a candidate, not even candidate, he's going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year, but I think he's a candidate for MVP as well. Just talking about Saquon. The two of them are going to clash in Week 11, I believe so, on Thursday night. So that is going to be huge. And of course, the addition of Marshawn Lattimore to the Washington Commanders. They are top 4, but they are not in the top 3. They are not in the top 3. The top 3 is standard, same as last week. At number 3, the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. Man, the Bills got away with it this week. I think the Dolphins almost played their best game of the season, and it needed a Tyler Bass field goal at the end to seal the deal. But Josh Allen and that Buffalo Bills offense put up 30 points. I'm still thoroughly impressed with how they've been this season. I thought there would be a down year for them. And instead, the Buffalo Bills have been almost incredible throughout, except for that 2-game slide period. The Bills have been incredible, and they're number 3 on the list. But they are not in the top 2. At number 2, the Detroit Lions. And they were very, very close, I believe, this week to almost being number 1. But the Detroit Lions took care. This was the big matchup of the weekend. They took care. This was the matchup for first place in the NFC North. They went on the road to Green Bay. They beat the Packers. And you got to say, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are most definitely the best 1-2 punch at running back in the NFL. The Detroit Lions are looking incredible. And they are number 2 on the list. But number 1 on the list, can you guess it? That's right. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, 8-0. They just squeaked by on Monday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I gotta say, had they lost that, I would have really considered putting them at number 2 on the list because the Lions have been so good and the Chiefs have been sort of squeaking by this year. But 8-0 is not squeaking by. In my point of view, they are 8-0. Of course, Patrick Mahomes, really gutsy performance. I think from both, it was a really good game last night, the Buccaneers and the Chiefs. Again, the Chiefs get the win in overtime, the touchdown to win the game. And they are number 1 on the power rankings on my list. And shall we recap, guys? At number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. At number 2, the Detroit Lions. At number 3, the Buffalo Bills. At number 4, the Washington Commanders. At number 5, the Philadelphia Eagles. At number 6, the Pittsburgh Steelers. At number 7, the Minnesota Vikings. At number 8, the Baltimore Ravens. At number 9, the Atlanta Falcons. And at number 10 on your program, the Green Bay Packers. And that has been your top 10 list. Thank you guys once again for watching. Now, once I mentioned, I started the show talking about the election. So guys, make sure you get out there and vote. Right? This is a very pivotal moment for our country. Now, of course, this message comes to you a bit late because the polls are going to close in exactly 8 minutes from now. So I hope you have voted. Now, of course, you're on the West Coast, middle of America. You still have the chance to vote. Hopefully, you're in lines right now. So regardless of what your beliefs in, it's very, very important, guys. This is a very pivotal election for us, consequential election. And make sure that your voice is heard regardless of if you are red or blue. Okay? I just still think that voting is an incredible matter that people don't take seriously enough. I know it's way too many people who just don't think it's important. They don't care about politics to the point where they won't vote. Like, that's crazy. I don't care about politics for most of the time because I just want to focus on my sports. But I do care about who becomes the president. I do care about this date every single 4 years. So it's a massive, massive day here. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe today because obviously, you know, sometimes in these lines, it can get really emotionally charged. Make sure you guys get home safely after you have voted or you voted already. So anyway, guys, it is now election time. It's now 6 minutes away, so I will let you guys go. Of course, this video will come out most likely Maybe after the results, maybe before the results, depends how this election goes. But until then, guys, Anton out.